And the camera is starting, just so everybody knows, they're being recorded, we're being recorded. And shall we just get started with Earl?
So he's going to sign in and then
Okay.
do the important things first, so I know who's here.
Okay. And you're Tracy, right? And you are?
I'm Kathleen Alden.
Nice to meet you. Shall we introduce ourselves or?
I'm Eric Furstenberg.
Tim Cook.
You didn't sound sure. I'm John Stadler.
I'm Vicki Smith.
And I'm Dave Robbins, I'm the planning and zoning administrator.
So if the first group wants to come to the table or stay there, it's whatever you like, but probably better if you come to the table.
I'll be more than glad to come to the table.
We'll be glad to have you at the table. All right, so I
If you want to come
understand,
to the table, Tracy.
I understand you want to move 5 parking places.
Well, it's an option to leave the 5 on the side of the street they're on, I'll put them over there, and when they start digging is to find the least gooey place.
So you want to be able to do that?
Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So Earl, I have a question. I was just in there 10 minutes ago. So right now, there's no parking spaces, right?
No defined.
No defined, it's all
No,
lawn
but
now.
I do have a drawing to show the project.
Right, no, I have that, but I meant,
No, you
right
don't.
now, it's just all lawn, there's no actual.
Did you guys have one of these things?
Yep, you gave those.
Yeah, we have these.
Okay, so what's your question?
Well,
Where I'm
right-
putting them, there's no parking there now.
Right,
It's
and over
people.
here, this is all lawn too, right?
Yeah, it is at this point.
Right, okay, I understand.
It was designated,
If you, here's the,
oh, you can have one of these.
if you line this up, you just spin this
So these have not been developed yet?
this way,
No,
this is where it would sit,
it's all
so
along.
right here is where
We
the
were
5 parking spaces.
Here, he's got the date, when we were configuring something else. And different parking places. were-
This is,
So basically, you have the plan, but there's no defined, nothing's defined.
There's no one parking in there at this moment.
he wants to.
Well,
5,
Not
these
from-
5.
Who I drove over myself.
There's
so
some
it was-
that driveway.
But you have the plan, but you don't, it's like you don't have a blacktop with stripes, it's just
He's not
open.
gonna do that.
Yeah.
But
Parking
start
meters,
digging
you
and
get a
it's
parking
swamp in
meter?
there.
huh?
You gonna put in parking meters?
I can get away with it, I might have to help you with my taxes, sure.
All right, so,
That'd be a good idea.
is there anything, can we just have everybody's attention in one place? Is there anything else that we need to know about it?
I think so.
Okay, well, give us what you need to do.
Well, the only thing that we're trying, down in this corner of the building is where the Lord puts the water. So to the right of this, the water goes off in that way. So I have to keep away from that water flow, which is only if we have a monsoon. However, I still have to be prepared for it. So I am taking that in consideration so that we leave it the way it is. And on the corner of the building, all this land here is the way it is.
So you've got drainage coming off your roof and going across your parking.
If it goes underneath the parking lot, and so all I'm saying is we can't extend this thing any further over because we would interrupt a monsoon problem.
So you have a culvert going under, or?
I think, yeah, there's a little culvert.
There's a little
Probably
culvert.
4 inches.
Okay, and are you adding 5 spaces, or are you removing?
No,
5?
I would, if I put the 5 there, I'd take them away from across the street,
Well, where would you take them away from?
right across the.
Well, we don't know which ones those are that you're going to be removing.
Well,
Can you
I would-
identify which ones you want to remove?
I would move the ones opposite that road, which are right here.
So on the original plan, you have,
What are the numbers?
45 to 49, right?
Yeah, 45 to 49.
Yeah.
Okay, so those would be gone.
Right.
And being moved on the other side.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the distance between where the drainage is and the new parking spaces? Do we have wetland setbacks? This is our town.
All I'm saying
and
is, if we have a monsoon, the water just, the 5 buckets of water go under the road between 49 and 50. And
Right, so there's a drainage that goes under there. My question was, if we're moving spaces on the other side, are we moving them to a place where there are wetlands?
no,
Fair question.
no, I only would do, if we were to make the ground solid for them and found that they were wetter than we thought, we would do it. We just go back to where it is.
No, okay, my question is, are there wetlands within 100 feet of?
There's no
where the-
wetlands except where my drainage goes, where I showed you, and goes off north.
And is that 100 feet from where the spaces are? I can't tell because there's not a scale right here.
But it sounds like it may not be a well.
It's not a wetland, it's a
I don't
once in
know.
50-year drainage.
Well, the other thing is that he's already got parking right next to
That was already approved.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with that. The question is are we creating a zoning inconsistency by moving those spaces to a place that is? And maybe they're all within 100 feet of a wetland, and it doesn't make a difference.
Looking at the original plan, it does show wetlands and does not show any wetlands in this area.
Okay,
So if you look up here, there's a wetlands with a wetlands buffer.
and are there any other overlay districts that we should be concerned about?
No, there are not.
Okay. So in your viewpoint, that's zoning compliant for
Yes, it is.
parking? Were you able to confirm that the swing of an emergency vehicle would not be impeded if spaces 35 to 44 were developed and you had the new spaces put on the other side of the road? So that there's enough width for a fire truck to get up the hill without knocking into one of the
Right,
cars.
and if the fire truck wanted to pass another one to the, whatever, across the road from the parking places, they could just drive on that grass.
Okay, well, what if it's winter and there's a snowbank? It's just an access issue that I had
Right.
already asked David about 2 weeks ago when we received this plan, and that's just what I wanna know, is if it's wide enough for
So
a
what
emergency vehicle to
what
make
you
that
wanna
swing.
do is get the input of the fire chief, because we can have that as a condition.
I don't know why, well, first of all, because I brought it up 2 weeks ago, I thought maybe that would have been conveyed to the applicant, or that we could have asked, David might have asked that so that I wouldn't have to ask it again, but.
So was that
is that-
raised?
I thought I had raised it, but if I hadn't, then my mistake, but I've not talked to the fire chief.
If we have snowbank on one side, you're not gonna be able to swing into the grass, and that's a concern, that we maintain the emergency
What would
access.
you propose?
I don't know, Earl, if it's wide enough, maybe
Well,
we
yeah,
move
excuse me,
your
I'm just asking
your
a
face.
question.
I'm not proposing anything,
Hold on.
because I don't know that it's an
I think
issue.
a-
My question
I
is
think
it an
A
issue?
good way to handle it is that if this is approved, we can have the fire chief, require the fire chief to supply a letter stating whether it's okay.
And if it's not, the spaces can be moved back to make sure that the drive that's remaining is wide enough. That would be what I would propose, but I don't know if that is even necessary, because I don't have that information.
Yeah, it wouldn't be hard to widen the drive either, I don't think. If you're gonna put in parking spaces there, you can just widen the drive if you had to.
Well, just put the spaces back to the west more so that the drive is automatically
Yeah,
wider.
right,
I mean, it's
right.
not a big deal, fair question from my way of thinking, because we're changing the access.
Yeah, I think it's a fair question, and this is where we're at now, so we'll look for a way to accommodate clarification on your question.
Yeah, so basically, Wendy just has to say how much width he needs to get the truck in there, that's all he needs to say.
To go around the corner,
Yeah.
without hitting somebody else who might be in
Well,
space number
I'm sure
44.
he'll consider that.
Okay, well, he needs to have this plan and not go out and just see lawn on both sides.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know why I'm always the bad guy. It's pretty common sense that what we're looking for is just that we're not impacting the
You're not the bad guy,
zoning,
Vicki, you're
and that we
asking
wanna
important questions
Make
that.
sure that this building has emergency service access and that our fire trucks don't go whacking cars when they're trying to get in.
It's a good question, and we'll take care of it.
So can I just ask about, could we assume when we're doing these layouts that parking cars will be permanently in the way of an emergency situation? I mean, I would imagine in an emergency, if there was a car in the way, we'd ask that car to be moved, but we would move that
Well,
car.
in an emergency, you may not be able to get the car moved.
Well, that's what I'm asking, is like, do we really make the plan such that this, I mean, we're going much
They're
wider
supposed to
with
be
access.
emergency compliant, they're supposed to be.
But it's
compliant.
assuming a monument of an automobile or something is parked in that way, in the way. From what I'm looking at here, and this is where I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from on this, this is on the opposite side of what was already approved as
Right.
emergency access.
Right, but if the opposite side, then they can swing as far as they want over to the west and going in and going out. They're not gonna hit cars.
Oh, because it'd be on grass or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I mean, there are no cars parked there, so my question is can they make the turn between car number 44 and the first car on the left side when they're going in there, that's
They're
all.
swinging it.
I see.
And, you know, and I don't know, I haven't been on the property, I looked from the road, there appeared to be cars parked there with a lot of grass and stuff growing up around them already. So I don't know if that's the space or not.
Yeah, temporarily, some trucks have been parking where, I think you put something in better than they have, for
Right.
the simple reason that we just mire and mud or something unnecessarily.
No, I think it's good to improve it if they're gonna be there, it looks like they've been there. My other question 2 weeks ago when we received this was whether or not there's going to be any screening provided, because now there's a house that sits up here and looks down on that. And when this was approved, there was a forest in between.
Absolutely. Now, what is my obligation, having built this property in 83 and 84, and worked with Bucky for years, and he had his trees, no one had a problem, and if Bucky takes his trees down, why is it my obligation to do something about it? I don't mind if the landowner does something, but where's my responsibility, even though I won't be able to make it?
I know. Well, you have the commercial property, and what we're trying to do is prevent conflicts between commercial properties and residential properties.
That's fine.
I think it's only because the spaces are being moved closer to the.
What?
I think it's only an issue because the spaces are being moved closer to the owner's property.
I have a question.
Okay.
People who bought the house didn't buy it with trees. They bought it with trees gone, so they know exactly what they bought. Why are we assuming that? Is this like are you thinking ahead for when they sell and, I mean, what's?
Well, we're supposed to think in perpetuity, but your point is a good point. And one of the reasons for site plan review is so that the neighbor who's concerned can come and comment. Do we have a neighbor? Are you a neighbor?
I am across the street from the commercial building, I'm not on Britain Road.
I actually talked to the lady
Yeah.
who purchased property today.
Yeah.
And showed her the plan. She didn't seem to have any issues. I did explain to her that she absolutely had a right to come tonight, and if she wanted to discuss screening, and I specifically brought up screening
Okay.
from her property, she said she was gonna discuss it with her husband, and if they had a concern, they would come tonight.
Okay.
And they haven't.
And do you have concerns about?
Well, I didn't know if there was a new business going in, or where these parking places were, if they were if you were moving them out to Route 10, or whether the trees were gonna be coming down in front of the building, I had no idea.
So do you have a better idea now?
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I guess the parking spaces 35 to 44 are the ones that allow, were those approved long ago? I've never been
Yeah.
invited to
No,
a meeting
that
here
was
before.
long, what year was that? 83?
Oh, okay, long time, so, okay. Yeah, I've never,
You know, theoretically, as much parking as possible shouldn't be, it should be invasive to Route 10 as possible, so the stuff is down behind the building. The other thing with our neighbors, they haven't seen me, but they are 40 feet maybe above me in their house. It would be difficult for me to figure out how I would supply vegetation at my level that would really take care of it. It's not an easy issue, but whatever.
And I think, I have to understand this too, from the standpoint, he didn't say anything to the other budding owner that he couldn't remove this.
He's got a residential property,
That's different.
it is different. Site plan only applies to multifamily, residential, and commercial properties. We don't regulate anything that single-family residences do, except for if we're creating lots for those houses to
And
go
so,
on, that's
and so
all we
when
do.
we open a site plan review, we open it from ground zero. We don't take into account that this was approved in 1983, this was, everything is here. And
Yes, we can take into account everything.
yeah, but if we're gonna talk about putting in screening, so I'm
Right.
understanding, can we then require new screening because the budding
Screening for
landowner-
those 5 spaces that are being moved, there was no screening required back in
There-
1983.
But there is now.
No, there isn't now. I mean, I think if you look at our regulations,
I think the
there would
answer to
be.
your question is it is
But-
within the board's
Discretion.
capacity to do that. It doesn't mean the board has to or will,
I
but.
think we just approved the site plan up further south on Route 10 that didn't have adequate screening in the judgment of the abutter, and I think we went to court. It's the town that pays for that, so, yeah, so, I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
these are,
think we do
these are
these
things,
things
these are
again.
substantive issues that we need to consider, and then the board makes a judgment. So when there's a site plan review, for anything, the rules are that it opens up anything for consideration.
Well, I have another question. If I leave the parking exactly where they are, where do these trees fit in?
They don't, because essentially then you could just not, you could mix the site plan review.
It's only a potential issue because they're being moved.
Right, and it's a potential issue that there's no decision to make.
All right, that's fine.
It sounds like
Clear on it?
if the abutters doesn't have a problem, then it sounds like it's not an issue.
My 2 cents is I'll take the abutters input
Yeah,
at face value.
yeah.
They've talked to David, Dave's talked to them, they're not here.
Did they see what the project was?
Yeah, I showed them the map, I showed them where the new parking spaces
fair
will
enough.
be.
That's fair enough.
And I did specifically bring up screening as an issue that they had the right to come in and if they felt that that was going to be.
And
an
of
issue.
course, I would assume that when snow comes, not tonight, that the trucks would probably be inside and it would be academic.
Yeah,
Because
I
we don't-
mean,
That's
what we
beside
have to do is look at this in perpetuity, like what in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, when there are
Alright.
2 or 3 owners down the road, what might happen? I mean, that's how we have to look at it, but I take your point. So, any other points or questions? We need to go through a checklist. We have a checklist.
I did not do checks, I assumed that because this was just reopening the existing.
Okay. What's the board's feeling? Do we need a checklist?
I don't know.
I'm looking at you. So what's the board's consensus? How many people feel we need a checklist? Nobody? Okay, I think it's probably a good idea, but I will accede to the vast majority. So we're not requiring a checklist, which makes me wonder, but, so what do people want to comment on or ask questions about? Anybody?
I just think we need to get Mike on these anyway.
Okay.
I can't see any other issue really other than fire trucks.
Okay. And anybody else? All right.
I agree.
I'm sorry?
I agree.
Okay. Any other comments? So, it's been really hot recently, and even though this room is semi-air conditioned, I'm in an inarticulate state, but I will do my best to propose a motion to approve. First, I will find that the application is complete. Thank you. No, I rescind everything I just said.
I
Yes.
said, bro, you're not putting in lights or anything, right?
No,
No, okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
I will unrescind everything I just said. I just unrescinded. And make a motion that we approve the, moving the 5 spaces, subtracting from the existing spaces across, and using the 5, what were the numbers?
45 through 49.
45 through 49 will be eliminated and moved directly across the driveway, conditional upon the approval and satisfaction of the fire chief in terms of safety and access, and the fire chief should also have one of these plans to look at, not just to do an eyeball. Yes, please.
I just wanna make sure, because it sounds to me like you have said they're definitely going to be moved, but if they don't have to.
All right, so he has, they're not definitely,
Right.
but we'll have the option.
Right,
to
because
move.
if they now have to be moved, then.
No, they don't have to be.
Okay,
So let's
I
make
just
clear.
wanna make sure that's
This is
clear.
that, not that they will be moved, but they have the
Option.
owner has the option to move them under those conditions.
Is the application, they didn't have to be complete?
Excuse me?
Did we deem the
Yes.
application to be complete?
Yeah.
Do we have a motion on that and it got approved?
All right, I'd like to make a motion that the application is complete. Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? It's complete. I just thought there were so many lights on, but it's just a reflection. Okay, so that's complete. So do I have a second for the motion to approve? Second. All those in favor?
Can I just put on
Oh.
one more thing?
Please.
We talked last time at length about how long approvals last.
Yes, yes.
Do you wanna make
Yes, I
that
do.
clear
Thank you.
with us?
We are under a new program here to make everybody informed of the regulations. So when you get a site plan review, it's good for 2 years, and construction is supposed to start within 1 year. You can get a continuation possibly, but just for your information, so you're not shocked.
I can procrastinate, but I can fit it in
Okay.
those time period.
Okay,
I have a question.
yes,
Pretend he sells it.
yeah.
Does this, all of this carry over?
It carries
to-
over
Okay.
within that time frame.
Okay, with it, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
The approval does not go with Earl, it goes with the land.
Yeah, and that's part of why we can be so picky,
Right,
because,
that makes
you know,
total
a
sense.
lot of times people say, well, you know that so-and-so's not gonna do that, but
Yeah.
none of us are gonna be there forever.
And so if I'm understanding this, we have given him the authority to move 5 spaces if he wants to.
If he wants to.
Does that mean he can move 2 if he wants to, or does he have to move all 5? If he moves any,
Good
does he
question.
move
Do
all
we- do
5?
we-
Well, I can't fit any more in that space.
Well, what if you wanna move less? Do you wanna have the option of moving less?
And then, I'm just,
See, my problem is if we don't have a layout that the fire chief can review, if there's like 3 on this side and 2 on this side, it creates more of neck.
I think it'd just be better to leave it
the
simple. If you wanna
emergency
move,
vehicle goes
you have the option of moving the 5, then let's
So
not.
here's what I'm getting at. If we get the fire chief out there to make sure that the lane between all these parking spaces,
It's only 16 feet.
I know, but if it is adequate space, then all is good. If it's not adequate space, what I'm understanding is, you're gonna probably move it until there is adequate driveway lane, and
Yes.
you'll put 20-foot parking spaces on the other side.
Yes.
And it may encroach the other neighbor's land by 5 or 6 feet more or whatever, but that's what we're asking him to do. Make sure the fire chief,
Yes.
make sure the
We're
path.
saying screening isn't.
So what I guess I'm having trouble understanding is why
I,
we just aren't adding 5 spaces? Why are we required? Because
Be-
if he uses them, he uses them. If he doesn't use them, he doesn't use them.
Well, this is to your satisfaction, right? If we give you the option. Okay, it's to his satisfaction, let's not look for
if I need
trouble.
more parking, I'll
You
come back in another 20 years.
We almost have, did we ever get a second on this
Yes, we
motion?
did.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, all those in favor?
We'll all be here.
All those in favor?
In 20 years.
All those opposed?
Done.
Done.
And I just assume know whether or not the fire truck can get it there.
Yeah, I bet you will.
But
All
the
right.
insurance company will be happy to know that.
Right.
Who has to are we responsible for getting hold of Tinsley, or?
Get hold of
Okay.
Mike Monday and.
Like, yeah, Mike's
Just
my
to
son.
know, our likely, I guess things change.
Things constantly change.
Remind you everything's.
Yeah, he's too busy in Hanover now.
He's
He's
chasing
too
bears.
busy chasing bears, exactly.
All right, well, thank you, and thank you. I hope that was to your satisfaction. All right, on to the minutes.
We can go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Stay if you want.
Yeah, you can stay. It's pretty
I
exciting,
can go and watch.
and it's air conditioned.
Well, it's better than my house.
Minutes. Anybody have comments on the minutes?
I just had one typo. I think it's item 4, last sentence. Concluded that Rusty stated, there either should be a he.
Hey, nice meeting
that
you.
Between stated
Is there anything
That he,
or that he
Nothing,
would
you know, not
check.
that he would check with Pete.
Just a typo.
Yeah. Okay.
Cover here.
Anything else? All right, make a motion to approve the minutes as amended by Tim. Give a second.
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? All right.
I wasn't here, so I abstained.
Vicki, thank you for reminding me of the 2-year thing. I actually had it written down. Forgot. All right, next on the agenda is the housing thing. So, okay, well, I can give you kind of an update. So we spoke last time, I asked whether it would be okay if I got in touch with the consultants about the $450,000 figure as the average business. And I did, and Russ wrote back and said, the 450,000 figure came from ESRI, that's a big data firm, basically. A demographic and housing data firm I subscribe to. It applies to single-family ownership housing units, new or old. The figure is higher than I expected. I was able to confirm that the figure is in the $400,000 to $450,000 range in the course of our interviews in the town. You know, I don't know, but
So I have,
yeah,
I've been working with our housing data. I have all that data
I do.
in front of me. It would take me 15 minutes.
So why don't you do
to
that?
home to check it. I just need to know what statistic we need to know.
I think,
The average price of
how
a
about-
dwelling unit, or?
how about
Because some of these homes have
two?
three,
Yeah,
right, so if it's a $750,000 home and 3 units
here's ideally,
Or I can do it both ways.
here's ideally the more, the merrier. If we can get medians, no, that's not easy.
Oh, we can do medians, yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine, but what,
So here, median and average for both residential properties and then residential units.
okay, and I'll restrict that to anything that has a dwelling unit. Anything
Yeah, we don't care
that- One or
about
more dwelling units.
one or
I'll
more
do just the total property, and I'll do it per dwelling unit.
per dwelling unit. Because what concerned me, aside from that seeming pretty high based on what we did in 2016, was he was quite emphatic that it was dwelling units, which would be even more surprising. This time he said housing property, something like housing properties or something. So anyway, that would be great. So thank you.
Yeah,
Do you have an expectation? I'm just curious. I understand what you're saying, because dwelling units, there must be many more multiples, so the denominator's bigger, therefore the number should be smaller. But is that?
Yeah, I do have an expectation.
Yeah, but
My
what is that?
expectation is, well, it's not really so much an expectation, but that was a really surprising number to me, and it was to him too.
Right, right.
And you can, this is all the data we went through when we did this 216.
Yeah.
And you can see that based on what we have, and this is property based, it's preliminary, but 28.5% was at workforce housing 260. When you get to 300, it was 35.5. When you get to 350, it was 42.5. 350 to 400, it was 51.5. Now, we do have a big bubble when you get to the high end,
right, so that says your median is about.
somewhere in
around 400.
about 400. Well, 54.5 is at 4. Yeah, no, it's at 4. So maybe a hair under 4. Or at 4.
Yeah, it's easy for me to do.
Okay, so that's when you ask what's my expectation, is it's like, well, were we just incredibly wrong?
Or did it change that much since?
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
medians and averages are way different, and if
Right.
we have a two billion, everything's gonna shift way
right,
forward for the average.
exactly, and that's another issue, so because we have, well, actually, ended up at 66, above 1 million, so that really skews it in terms of the
Yeah, that's why
average.
averages are.
But the other thing that's can be a little bit skewing with these properties is just quite a few of them, as Eric was saying, have multiple houses on them. So what I'm concerned with is that when an authority gets up there and definitively says, we have dwelling units at an average of 450,000 costs, first of all, I think it's wrong, but I could be wrong.
Well, let's see what our data tells us.
But the other thing
then
is
we
that,
can-
one of the things that I liked about them when I voted for them was that they said, how things are presented matter and influence the discussion. And when I looked at, I don't know what it was, Belmont, I looked at what they did, I felt they really went where the facts took them. I think it's really easy to go, to have some data firm provide you with numbers, but the numbers, they didn't dig into it like we did, I guarantee you that. So I want their numbers to be good, and I will also would like a little bit of nuance around the numbers as opposed to just a flat, so that people, when they're understanding what things cost in Lyme, they can understand what we discovered here. The more information people have, the better. All right, anything else on the housing chapter?
I have the, what's the word? I replicated what we did the first time around with 2018 data.
Oh, great.
The numbers basically look the same. If you recall, we had two definitions of workforce housing,
Right.
right? One more strict than the other.
Can you just wasn't there.
So,
as
so
well.
we did two types of workforce housing. We just went through what was available.
Well, it wasn't, I should say, it wasn't two types of workforce housing, it was two types of housing. So there were some units that were pretty rudimentary, let's say, where we felt maybe on the surface that wouldn't qualify as a housing unit because of the condition of the
Well, but that,
But somebody was actually living there, so.
that was,
There's
but that
some
was,
gray areas.
but that was motivated by the workforce housing part, because,
Correct. Most of these units are workforce housing.
yeah,
because
they're, except for one, as I recall.
Yeah, I-
So the point was, we could have counted those as workforce housing, but we excluded them because we wanted to make our number, less assailable. We wanted to
More
make it
conservative.
far more conservative. So we eliminated, I think, something like 16.
Yeah, it's 15.
15 units.
15 or 16. So in 2016, using the entire list, we have 29% workforce housing. Now we have 24% workforce housing. Using more stringent definitions of units that were questionable. We have 27.8 in 2016, and now it's 27.2. All the raw numbers are very close, within a few minutes of each other. So there are a couple places, a couple new houses, and a couple, I can't remember if any units went offline or not. And then there's this shifting around the cutoffs. So the cutoff in 2016 for workforce was 260. In 2018, it's 269.5. So property values change a little bit, the cutoff changes a little bit. Some left over the cutoff, some dropped down below the cutoff. So from 16 to 18, there was just some wiggling around the cutoff by a couple of different properties.
Do you have copies of that?
No.
Where does the definition 269.2 now come from?
I have it here.
It's from the county, the county
The county
says
says
that.
It comes back from the state, they list by county.
Does the county set it or does the state set
I
it?
think the state sets
I
it.
think it's the state,
Oh, really?
I believe.
We don't.
We don't, yeah.
No,
right.
we don't have anything to do with that.
That's why I was just like, okay.
So the stuff we talked about with using the voter list to try and address rentals, I haven't touched that yet.
Okay.
So that would be the next step, but, qualitatively, looks like it did
We're
before.
So were
essentially
these
within.
properties or were these dwelling units? Is this whole dwelling unit?
These are
question?
dwelling units.
These are actually
Yeah.
dwelling units.
So
Actually,
there's some we've identified because they're listed
Actually,
as
I thought,
multi-housing.
you correct me since you did, but I thought what we did was we used dwelling units, I'm pretty sure actually, that we used dwelling units for the workforce housing because we wanted to be.
Yeah, that's dwelling units.
Okay, but for what we list, what I was just showing you before,
Right.
that was residential
Properties.
properties.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
okay,
right.
okay.
And there's some, so the example I gave before, like suppose there was a property that cost, appraised at $750, and there were 3 units in there. Might we say there are 3 units of workforce housing? We don't know.
Right.
So we.
You did an equal division, you didn't do
In this data, we would treat that property as having no units of workforce
Right.
housing.
Right, even if it was clearly they had one,
Yeah.
that was just counted as a single residential property, so again,
Well,
that's.
it was counted as 3 dwelling units and 0 workforce housing.
Yeah, but in terms of when we did the listing of properties, it just counts as a property, a single residential property, even if it has 3 residences
So
on it.
there's a real undercount.
There's an
workforce housing.
undercount. In 2 ways, I mean, if we wanted to be really aggressive, we could have counted those extra 14 units, which would have raised it like, 2% or something. I don't know exactly. We could have like made a big issue about all these multiple housing properties, but I think it's better to be conservative.
Yeah, I mean, 28.9% is still pretty high.
It's, oh, yeah, no, I mean, I believe it's compliant, but, I just think it's better for the town and for us to be conservative with our count.
And I think even, if I remember correctly, over the time period between, in the past 2 years, the new properties that were added, there was one that was workforce housing, maybe even two, I can't remember, maybe a mobile home that was workforce housing as well. But there was one, that was definitely workforce housing, and then there were 2 or 3 that were not. So even in terms of, what we've added over the past 2 years.
It's sort of within the balance.
Same
been
percentage.
Roughly the same.
And we're gonna get, by the way, I did go out and take a look, we'll get to that. But at some point, we're gonna get, what is the Bailey is doing adding 3 units?
Adding 3
Yeah,
units.
so I mean, I assume those will be workforce housing, which is significant for the town.
Actually, it almost counts as 4, because aren't you gonna divide it?
Yeah, I don't know whether we could count that 4th one, since
Well,
he's,
because they're all, I don't see how if we divided it isn't all 4 of them. I mean, I know they're not used that way, but you know what I mean? They can certainly be sold that way, and they're all 4 workforce, right? I mean,
You mean the one that Morgan County?
that they would be living.
I mean, I know there was an existing one, and we're adding 3, but I
guess
think
that's-
it counts as 4.
Yeah, you may be right.
But if it's a rental, we have to know the rental.
Yeah, well, that'd be easy to do, I mean, we would just ask them.
They don't have to tell us
No,
though.
they don't have to, but I'm sure, I don't see why they would.
But then, that's when we start getting into
The weeds.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's because it's so hard to do the rentals.
The rentals, yeah, I mean, when we did the rentals, that's
Yeah.
another area, we got 2% rental, but we know it was undercounted.
So Vicky, in Hanover, does the town of Hanover have a list of all rental properties because they have to register or whatever? But we have nothing in Lyme, so in Lyme, basically, we have no record of who's very much.
Yeah, and in Hanover, if you just rent a room, it wouldn't even be a full dwelling unit, you have to, register that room that you rent.
So you have a list of every single rental.
That's right, yeah, so the rental registration was free, but if they didn't register, then they got penalized. That's how it worked. And you can imagine there's some landlords that own quite a few units, so it's really to their advantage to get them all registered so that they're not penalized.
If they're discovered.
Well, we get discovery because we get complaints about a lot of units, and so if we get a complaint for an address that's not a rental, not registered, then the
What's-
landlord gets, well, mice, mold.
No, I mean, I may have missed it, but what's the penalty?
Oh, I don't know, it's 100, 200, I
How to
don't
get,
get.
it's a dollar amount?
Oh, yeah, it's a cash amount if you don't register. Yeah, and there's no cost to register, but you don't need to cost.
It's
And,
interesting, so for us to try to think about doing that, I mean, I'm just looking at the advantage of that, it's just so we have this data. I mean,
well,
what
we
do
have
you do
the,
with that
we
data?
have the, well, for us, it was based, okay, so in Hanover, there's a restriction, you can only have 3 unrelated individuals in a rented unit, and, or even in, so, yes, we don't wanna get major overcrowding in some of the student rentals, so only 3 unrelated individuals can be there. And so that was an opportunity to reach out, make landlords aware of that situation, and then it also is that, we can work with the new landlords, saying, do you have egress, do you have fire, smoke detectors.
But we don't have any of that restriction in terms of relationship at the moment.
No, no, as many as you want. And I mean, it's not to say, you can have a family of 12 living in a 2-bedroom, they're related and they're living
Right.
together.
No, it's true.
And it's a
And it
pattern.
happens.
Oh, I know
Yeah,
that happens.
yeah, so, I mean, it's not, yeah, but,
So in Lyme, if somebody has a rental unit and there's a fire, and somebody dies in the fire, who's responsible? Well, they didn't have
Loss
a
of
smoke
life.
detector, let's say they had no smoke detector, they didn't have any
Oh, I see.
EMS,
Okay, okay.
and someone died in the fire, then somebody's gonna sue, obviously, and who's gonna sue?
Well, at some point, that could be criminal. Right?
There are rules that people violate.
I think if you have the national fire codes, if you're violating those, then it's up to the landlord to make sure that they are
Yeah.
compliant. There is no,
So the town is not.
the town does not have any building inspector, so there is no inspections.
We're not liable.
So the town has not gone through and said, yes, this is,
Right, and even our fire is almost voluntary, right? I mean.
yeah, there is no, other than for commercial,
Okay, yeah.
there is some requirement for commercial kitchen, but not any for residential.
Yep. All right, anything else on housing? Thank you very much. And future, thank you for that future information. Which is, so, you're not gonna be here next time? Could you get that to
Yeah.
me or David, before you take
I'll
off?
be,
You will be on the 23rd.
You won't be here for the 20.
oh, that's our meeting and the proceedings.
Yeah, on the
right?
23rd.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be here for that.
So if you could get that to me beforehand, then I could discuss it at that meeting. That'd be helpful.
Should not be.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they should be happy to get that.
Yeah, I would think so. Anyway, that's great work. Thank you very much. Anything else on housing chapter related?
I just wondered if, David, as he got building permits, could keep track of that stuff, so it's like automatically that we can update it, so it's not a search
So
issue.
how would,
Can you, like, as you get new building permits coming in with, prices?
I track that anyway, I can give you, or at least the cost of construction.
Right, right.
So I guess I'm not sure which. which
So it isn't
price.
a lookup, but it would just be keep track of how many new houses, what their values were, and if, how many units are in them or something
Well,
like
the
that.
problem is you have the appreciation of all existing, so you kind of have to do the exercise. You looked at
Yeah,
the
so what was-
appreciation of everything, right? Not just new houses.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, all the values of all the other houses change. You know, it's hard, when I asked David about this, I mean, people will use permits, 'cause he doesn't know when if they're completed.
yeah, I think in the
And there were
big
only a
picture.
few, so it's easy for us to
Yeah.
figure it
Okay,
out.
all right.
But eventually, at some point, you know, if it's an open piece of land, eventually the values change.
Mhm. Right.
And then, you know, it's
As of-
gone from
as of-
$80,000
as of
to
April 1st,
$550,000.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Basically, something changes the value in the town all the time. We do it 25% of the town. It's essentially revalued every year. So, and then we do the complete revaluation, but the inventory gets adjusted on 25% of the town all the time. So we're
I mean,
seeing.
with like on an annual basis.
And roll.
Yeah,
Sort of rolling
Yeah, so
and-
so that our assessor doesn't go out to the entire town to do both the inventory and the valuation. We're doing all the inventory on a quarterly basis, quarter of the town. And then with that inventory, we then go into the reassessment values, and that's a sales study that adjusts the value of that inventory.
Right, so these are all based on appraised value. Just going to-
Yeah, so that's another point, is they're not based on assessed value, the appraisal is the higher value.
But that's.
Yeah, which is the correct way to do it.
It's the closest.
But that's another thing, like if, for a data company, they can go in and they can take your, what are the taxes? And the taxes are based on the assessments, so it gets pretty confusing. All right, so then there's the senior housing, anything new?
I have some preliminary data
Yeah.
from Olivia. I'm trying to understand what it is she sent me.
Okay.
She sent me a spreadsheet without any explanation of what the columns are.
If you don't understand it, we're sure not gonna understand it.
So I actually tried to print it out on a large format, it didn't work, because I was gonna bring it in and for anyone who was interested, but, you know, like I said, at the moment, I don't know. She's getting married in the next week or so, and it's gonna be going
I
through.
don't see why that should interfere.
Well, okay, I'll let her know that.
Who's the lady?
She can get married.
She's the person from.
From RPC, Regional Planning Commission.
Regional Planning Commission,
Oh, right.
who's doing the build-out
Yeah.
analysis.
So, at a reasonable time, if she can explain what she's saying, that would.
I'm trying, like I said, I'm going through it, trying to figure out the best I can, and then I can ask her intelligent questions about it.
Right. Okay.
So what is, I don't even know what this work product is even supposed to do.
It's supposed to tell us what can be, it's giving us a baseline in the Lyme Common District about how developable.
I thought we were gonna get a report, not just a spreadsheet.
Well, that is a report, and you're gonna get some maps too of,
Okay, so the spreadsheet is the report?
I believe, this is preliminary data. This is not necessarily the final,
Okay.
so again, I'm looking through this
But if
and,
we're to guess, maybe there would be, each line is a lot, and there's what is built on it, what could be built.
right, that's what I'm assuming is there, just trying to, there's a
Other
lot of
information about
extraneous
each lot.
information that, as I'm looking at it, it doesn't make any sense to what it means. So I'm trying to pull out the fields that would say, oh, here's what's there now, the percentage of the lot that's filled, and what could happen, and then what could happen under the senior housing.
In theory, we're going to get some work product from her that interprets and analyzes the data and summarizes it and describes it.
Right. And I assume, like I said, it might be, you know, part of it may be the spreadsheet that says, you know, here's a lot, it has this percentage built out now, it can go to this percentage now, and under the senior housing, then you can go up to this percentage. So I think you're gonna end up with 3 scenarios
Right.
for each lot.
Depending on the sector.
Well.
The septic is a.
Septic. Really? Yeah,
Sorry.
thanks for bringing that
Yeah,
up.
fuck.
Okay, so we'll wait to get some clarity. Okay, new business. I did, Rusty had contacted me about, he wanted me to take a look at the Bailey apartment. I did drive out there and I spoke to David, and David said he had some concerns and that, you probably know this, or you don't.
No, I've not talked to Rusty
Yeah, so
since.
David did contact the Bailey.
I've talked to Morty and explained to him that he cannot be adding more to the parking lot that was not approved under site plan. He was not very happy about that, and I asked him to remove this new sections that were not done under the approval, or come back and ask for approval. I also noted him that he's running out of lot coverage. If he adds a lot more of this parking area, he's not going to be able to do his shop expansion that he wants to do. So, specifically, there's an area behind the barn that I noticed had been put in as above and beyond what was on the site plan. And so he's going to remove all that and just make it dirt and put some grass in.
Did you ask him, they're digging in that bank there? You know, they've been doing that for a couple of years. Did he say why? I never knew why they were doing that.
I have not asked why, I've asked them to stop.
Digging in the bank.
Yeah, there's no reason to be digging in there, they don't have an excavation permit, and there's no reason to be digging in there.
You mean that steep slope?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
a- Yeah, it's a-
That's why I.
So the question,
That's a
yeah.
steep slope district, I would say.
And they're digging, yeah, I
They had a
don't know.
rock crusher, I can see.
Well, they started 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, I've asked them to stop,
Before he's senior.
to not do that anymore.
And wasn't there a big pit as well that then got filled back in? It seemed like.
I think he was using some of the fill to level things out. He shouldn't be
If you
doing
have
it.
excavation equipment, it's just too tempting to fire it up. Boulder or something.
Well, and again, I'm making the assumption that there is some discrepancies between his plans and his father's plans, and his father gets going on the equipment and doesn't feel like he wants to comply, and then Morty has to, Morty is taking the heat for, but that's
his
So,
process.
so,
That's it.
so covering the details of this, young Marty came in and did the site plan review, but he was all under the guise that he was gonna be the owner of this property.
Yep.
But he's not the owner of the property, and
Yeah, I think he's trying.
so I'm just,
Trying.
and I get the whole, don't wanna bring Morty in to try and understand what we're asking here, but yet, he is the party.
Yeah, but I mean, an owner can send their relative in regardless. I don't
And
see
he was
that-
acting as
that makes-
Morty Senior's
yeah,
agent.
That
Okay,
doesn't
so
make a
he's acting as
substantive
agent.
difference.
Okay, that's okay,
Yeah,
I
so-
get that, but the communication coming back then.
Well, I mean, we have that in all sorts of situations.
And I have another one just like that
Yeah,
too.
yeah. So, that's nothing unusual.
So, okay.
And with my discussions with him, I also brought up the screening. I know that's been something that the board has been asking about, and he's still intending on doing it, once he gets the final grading done.
Yeah, I mean, that, when I drove by, that, I could see how he might be working towards that.
But anyway, I did
Okay.
speak to him about the screening.
Well, thank you. And also under new business, I did send the language to Community Cares of Lyme, and they will be publicizing the forms. I also ran it past the,
Resilience.
thank you, the resilience. And also CCL, Patty said that they would, she'd get back to us, but they were gonna do childcare, which is great. And
Are
I,
they, besides public gatherings and the school kind of thing, do they talk about any additional forms of outreach? I
Yeah.
remember Stu,
Online.
yeah, talking about how
Yeah, online.
something gonna have like.
well, I don't think they finalized anything
No,
at that
that's
meeting.
what
We're
we're
gonna
talking
keep,
about.
yeah, that next meeting, I think we'll hammer things out until we're, what is the date today?
Yeah, we did talk about an online survey for sure.
Yeah.
It's 2 weeks.
And then there
To
was.
it, is it
23rd.
Yes.
It's 23rd.
So 20, yeah. Also, I sent the, I sent the grant application to Dina.
Was
Yep.
that finalized?
No, it was, came out this morning, she received it, we reviewed it once, yet again, that, yes, in fact, the towns, because the money will come into the town, once it's received, it has to go to public meeting, and so the select board has to
That's what I thought.
manage this money,
Yeah.
therefore, the select board has to be the name on it, so she's
I agree.
editing your work, it's, but only to change where it says planning
Yeah,
board to the
that's-
town.
I
that's-
just
I
wanted to
think
get
that-
us off the dime. 'cause
Right, exactly.
It takes a
And it
long
was
time to
great.
get
So
off
is
the
it going,
dime.
it's going in?
Well, that, yeah, so she was gonna edit that, and whether she gets it sent before next meeting, I don't know.
She was working on it today.
She was
We were
working on it.
talking
It'd be
about
great to get it sooner
Right,
than
exactly.
later. But I
But
think,
the town's all,
Yeah.
the select board's all in favor of doing this, it's just, you
and I
gotta do it the right way.
agree with you. I mean, I think the select board should be, because that's what, yeah, no, I do, because the select board, just because of what you said.
It is the way
You
it
are the
is.
handlers of the money, and the planning
If
board
you're a
really is.
commission in the town of Lyme, if you're a commission, you can do your own applications and you have your own accounts and money and deal. Any committee of the town has to come to the select board. And they can draft everything, because that's, it saves the work of the select board where Dina or somebody
Right.
drafting the actual application.
That was a
It
fantastic.
was, yeah, it was
Just phenomenal.
a slam dunk
Yeah.
to get it just edited so we can get some.
We should give it twice as much.
Yeah, right.
Well, if you wanted to ask for more, I mean, that's the thing, they're there for,
No, I think that's appropriate,
No.
but, I mean, I don't know. I don't think we could have even come close to approximating that application. So, thank you very much again. Anything else? Oh, no, if you have a smile on your face,
I only have two things.
okay.
One, Doug Holler has been in contact with me. They want to upgrade access, one of the paths or one of the trails. I'm gonna pass, he sent some Google images.
Where,
It's a skiway.
The skiway, I'm sorry.
oh, this is ski, oh, it's still for Dartmouth.
Right,
Okay.
and so I'm looking, there's just his overview. Once again, just putting it to the board, I assume you wanted, have him go through site plan review, but I'm gonna, they're different pictures, so you can kind of pass everything. But it's basically, if you drive in, put your back to the lodge, it'd be the trail on the very right-hand
What's
side.
Papoose, but what are they doing?
Here's a summary, written summary of what they wanna. Basically, they wanna be able to have a little better access with their vehicles in the summertime, so they wanna, there's some water bars they wanna take out, put in culverts and cover with gravel.
This is different from the ski team turnout.
Right, this
by the
is,
lift, okay.
right, this is just to basically improve their vehicular access to get up to the top of the skiway in
So
the
is he
summer.
gonna get wetlands permits for his
So this is-
extra drainage work?
I assume he will.
I mean, I know he doesn't need them for us, or does it, does the skiway area have wetlands?
Walmart
I know
has
it
it.
exempts all the others, but he should get the state permit.
Oh, absolutely, he has to get the state permits.
The dollar store.
What is this picture for?
No?
So the blue is the new trail.
No, it's the blue is just the trail that they're going to be, or the area that they're, basically area, they're gonna be going on the outside of that trail to improve access. And like I said, Vicky,
So what, does that mean widening it?
I'm not saying, wait till you get the,
Oh.
and read exactly what they're,
Well, they don't
They
tell
wanna
us,
try
they don't know
what
what they're
they're
doing, they're,
I saw,
they're gonna get out
I
there
mean,
with a,
I
with a
think they
machine
should come
and
in
dump
for,
stone.
does everybody feel like they should come in for site
Well,
plan?
it doesn't help us to have this, because
No,
we have no
that's-
idea what's really going on.
We wanna be able to ask them what they're,
Like, if they have like stream crossings or wetland fillings, they should
does anybody
quantify that.
object to them having site plan review? So,
But they need to have more detail
Yes,
than
yes.
that.
oh, well, absolutely, that's,
tell them that we need to actually know what they're doing,
okay.
or they'll have to come back. Huh? We do.
So they show a class 6 road there, does that continue up the ski trail?
No, actually, I think the Class 6 road goes back down to Dorchester Road.
Yeah, goes down to,
Really?
this is where Elizabeth Kilmer's is?
Yes, it's by Elizabeth Kilmar's house.
That's the shadow of the roof.
And then it joins up with Papoose there, terminates.
Oh, right by the stone wall.
So, David, is this, is this really an access road?
Class 6, yeah, it's just class
I've
6.
actually never,
What?
people like.
It is, it's an existing ski trail.
It's an existing ski trail.
And then-
Well, I get it, but what they're talking about is the access road, so they wanna improve.
Well, they call it is a ski trail, but it's also has the least slope, so that's their access road to get up to the top.
Right.
So they have, it's not only ski trail in the wintertime, but in the summertime, they use that as their access road to get up to the top.
And that's what this is addressing, it's their summertime use, not the ski trail use.
Right, not the ski trail use, it's the summertime
It's a
use.
summertime use.
Papoose.
So, again, I'm just trying to, I really kind of have to understand the difference between when someone requires, is it again residence versus commercial?
Yes.
That we now
Yeah,
require
well,
site
I mean,
plan instead of
here's-
just
So the
driveway.
skiway require, the site plan,
Here's the
even the
definitive-
skiway, they have their own site plan rules.
Oh, is that right? That's not what I'm looking at.
If you look in the zoning ordinance,
Yeah, it's a skiway.
Okay,
Yeah.
but that's not within our SPR regulation?
well, in addition to those, you have,
Yeah,
Um,
sure. No, go ahead.
if you look under page 26, 454, skiing facilities,
Page, what did you say?
It's 2627 has specific rules.
26, 27.
It actually goes on
Right, so thank you for pointing that out, because I was just going by the regular ones.
Yeah, so they basically just want to make it easier to get the RTVs up there, so they put some stone in, so they can.
Right, you know, areas where they, you know, slip and slide now, they wanna make better
Does it
traffic.
also, I assume, provide access for fire vehicles in the event there's a forest fire up there, or?
Yeah, we're at 9Aug.
Yeah, there's a cabin up there too.
Cabin? Oh, yeah, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so you,
So,
I don't know, I have not walked the trail, I don't know if you're gonna get fire vehicles.
I guess what I'm looking at is,
That would be so.
I would assume
It's not a fire
they've
truck.
been dealing with this planning board for a long time,
Does
they know what they
Hanover
need
have
to
a
do.
4x4?
They seem to think that they've given us everything they need.
No, okay, so he needs to address number 2 and number 11.
Okay,
I mean, and any others that, but particularly 2 and 11 are things we're gonna be interested in. And I guess 6 also.
Well, that's, in the past, this has been the procedure.
Okay.
how detailed the plans, because you know, trying to get stuff out of Doug can be, you know, I ask for plans and that's what I get, so.
Yeah, so it's a process.
Well, we need to know where all the wetlands and waterways are and how they're going to deal with filling them.
and-
Or they're gonna drain after they fill them, and where they're gonna put culverts and that type of thing. I mean,
Okay, that's
I
perfect.
mean, we need a plan.
Yeah. So any of the water crossings that they're going to be, not just saying we're going to update water crossings, you wanna see all the specific water crossings and what they're going to do on each one.
And they might not even know yet. until
Well, they probably don't, because they just expect to go out with a dump truck with rock and some equipment and
do
go
it
at
as-
it.
do it as they go.
And they probably need a state permit,
Yeah, I assume that there will be state permits required.
and they need to quantify how much area of disturbance there's gonna be in the wetland. And for the state permit, they need to do that, and then they need to be sure that they're not going to need an alteration of terrain permit. I don't know if they're bulldozing the whole way up, or how long it's gonna go, but, if they disturb 100,000 square feet, they need to get an alteration of terrain permit as well.
I have to assume, this is Doug who's, I'm just trying to understand the parties here. So Doug is just the manager of the school.
Yes.
So when it comes to things like this, doesn't he pull in the whole real estate department to help him understand what he needs to do? Or does he just come to us?
He tries very hard just to come to us and say, here's what I wanna do, we're the greatest thing in the world, and please approve.
Okay. I'm like, I'm a little surprised that.
He's optimistic. It's almost
Yeah,
like
he's
a cat.
an optimistic person by nature.
And when he's told, no, you're gonna need to do all this, and, you know, so I do my due diligence, come to the board and say, what do you want? And then I will report back to him, and then,
He says, oh,
Looks like
okay.
it follows.
It's a
Okay,
dance.
so the wetlands permits, wetlands overlay district does apply in the skiway district, so there are zoning considerations here. I mean, if it's wet, he's draining it, it's probably wetlands, and he needs a zoning permit as well. They're not exempt. The skiway is exempt from steep slopes, ag soils, and shoreland. They're not exempt from wetlands.
Why they're exempt from steep slopes in the city. Come on. Okay, so,
Who
so,
determines, I mean, if these are water bars and water crossings, who determines whether those constitute wetlands?
If you have hydrology, soils, and vegetation, you have a wetland.
then we'll have to actually have a
Surveyor.
soil wetland scientist or soil scientist that can, somebody who can delineate wetlands, go out and actually delineate them.
So you don't have maps for all that, right?
No, we don't have the
There's
maps
a
there.
minimum size, right?
Not, I don't think for the state jurisdictional wetlands, what you do is if you disturb less than a certain amount, you don't need full permitting. You get, more minimal permitting requirements at the state level. And,
we have the same,
Okay, so I don't know what that size is,
you know,
but presumably, I don't know, if you've ever walked up and down the ski slope, there's some wet areas and, you know, they've got it kind of tiered, and water sits in some of those, benches.
All right, so David, you have a good idea of what,
yep, I have a good idea, I will give him the tasks that he needs.
It would be really good to see if, I don't know, like right in the woods, if there's a stream that you wanna care about. I mean, clearly the wetlands that exist on the ski slope are compromised, but within the woods, you know, that they're gonna be directing their water to make sure that, there isn't a nice little stream that's working along in there that, you know, they can direct water to it as long as it's been, you know, filtered.
Yeah, just don't dump it directly in and
Yes,
get it all stirred up.
yeah.
It's possible there are no streams, it's possible the water bodies should just defer,
Surface runoff.
just surface runoff down the trail.
Could be. Could be. It's pretty wet hillside.
I go up there a lot.
I do too. It's a pretty wet hillside. You know, some of the way that they've altered the terrain, they've created wetland inclusions. Whether or not they're big enough to qualify as wetlands, I don't know.
all right, so we know what we want to tell him, you know what we want to tell him.
Yep.
And you said you had two things, did you do one, both, or?
Nope, I still have,
Because you could reconsider about this.
So, I mean, does he need to go to the zoning board first then?
I don't know yet. If, you know, I need, again, what I'm gonna have him do is have a full plan drawn up, and then, I can look at that, because I don't know the specifics on, where his disturbances are.
I don't think he does either.
Yeah, so what I'm gonna do is have him draw it up, delineate the wetlands,
Mhm.
and then if those are, if any of the wetlands that are there are greater than what's considered a wetland in the zoning, then he will have to go to the zoning board.
Okay, so, I mean, it sounds like he has to familiarize himself more
Yep.
with the details of the project. All right, so what's next?
I'll pass out, we have a lot line adjustment coming up. Not on the 23rd, but the week after, the first meeting in September. One thing to note on these plans right now, there is no surveyor stamp. That has been noted, and I'm going to require that, or I have to ask him to get the surveyor to actually stamp the plans. I think it was an oversight. He got 3 copies of the plan and none of them had any stamp on them. And then, if you look at, basically what they're doing is there are 2 properties that are swapping about 0.3435 acres, a very small, a little over a third of an acre. If you look at the large full scale of the 2 lots, the current lot line is the dashed lot line.
Can you see?
And that's the one that goes straight across the
Which one?
properties. The dotted one, you see in the center where it says mountain,
Yeah,
forest,
yeah,
and rural,
yeah.
just below that,
Yeah,
there's a
okay.
straight dotted line that drops down.
Yeah. And that is what?
That's the current lot
Okay.
line. The new one would be the angled,
That angled one?
yeah. And then in the inset, the same way, the dotted one is the existing, and then the
Oh, I get
angled.
it, yeah.
It took me quite a while to figure out exactly what they were trying to do.
What are they trying to do?
They're trying to swap just very small pieces. I'm not even sure exactly why they wish to do this. They're under 10 acres, so we know it's not for current use. There is a conservation easement on the property.
On both properties? Oh, this is,
And I've included copies of the conservation easement. This was a part of a very large subdivision done quite a while ago. If you look at the.
27 years ago, no, 28 years ago.
On page 5 of the conservation easement, you'll see where it says lots 1 through 7 use limitations. Lots 1 through 7 shall not be further subdivided. These two lots are part of the 1 through 7, I think they're 5 and 6.
Page 5, so.
If you look at page 5 of the easement,
So
where it
have you
says,
checked with the Connecticut River Conservancy to be sure that lot line adjustment isn't considered a subdivision?
I just got this, and I just pulled this out today, so no, I have not checked with them.
Because that would be good to do that,
Yeah.
so we don't have to bring it up when people come.
Yeah, there was a lot line adjustment done already on this lot.
It doesn't matter.
Right, I'm just bringing up history. When, you'll see where on the eastern side, there's a right-of-way that goes up it's the driveway that gets into several of these properties. That driveway was built not to the subdivision plans, and so there was a lot line adjustment done to move you basically realign the lots. You had some of the lot 16 was actually on lot 18, on the lot 18 side of the driveway. And some of the lot 18 was on lot 16, so they just swapped some property to,
So they put the driveway all on one lot.
all on the correct lot.
Well, it's really not up to us to enforce the easement, and
Right,
that's
it's
up to
not.
the Connecticut River Conservancy, and you should also let the Conservation Commission know, because they've got executory interest
Yeah, so,
in this, and so the Conservation Commission needs to be sure that the Connecticut River Conservancy is enforcing the
Did you get any information about why they wanted to do it?
no.
This, the change in the lot line, create a nonconformity with regard to where the buildings are.
No, it did not. And I still have not gone through, I just got this, and so I haven't had a chance, but I wanted to get it to the board tonight, just so that you had as much time as possible to look at it.
So there are no structures?
So there are structures on both lots, they're both, there are houses
The
on both.
residences?
Yes, there are residences on both.
Where are the septic systems for the residences?
That I can ask.
So,
And again, this is very frustrating for me, is I give not only the application, but I give all the requirements that go with the application. And, there were a couple of them, he came in with one copy of everything, and, here's your application, it's all set, ready to go, and, no, you look at me, in the requirements that I gave you, it says 10. It's.
So, it'd be nice to know where the residence is.
Well, it's nice to know where the leach fields
And
are,
the
so
leach
that they're
field,
not
yeah,
getting
all of that.
swapped off.
All of that would
Yeah.
be,
Looks like the first house is pretty close to land.
Mhm.
It's-
let's see.
Well, they should be providing us with
Yeah,
information,
and then this,
honestly.
this house looks like it's back here, so,
Okay.
Yeah, but where's their leach field?
yeah, it's kind of, it's.
I will talk to them and
So they'll have to come in, the next meeting is dedicated to the consultants.
right, it's the September,
So what do we have scheduled for that one, just them or?
so far, just this.
Yeah.
Tammy Dowd, I've been trying to get her to come in for a site plan review. I got an email from her today for the new parking. Saying, what do I need to do? And I, once again, explained what she needed to do. And she said she wanted to come in on the first Thursday of the month, and I said, no, there's no meeting on the first Thursday, but on the second Thursday there is.
So it's possible we'll have two.
It's possible
two
that
items.
there will be two. She has to get everything to me by 23rd of this month.
A couple of weeks.
Yeah.
All right, so we might have two, but we certainly got one. And next time is consultants. Any other questions about this, or comments or requirements? And a report from the LCDC meeting, anything exciting?
We didn't meet.
You didn't meet, how did that go?
It went very well.
How did the not meeting go?
Good.
Was it better than meeting?
Well, I had dinner at the Loudon Lodge, so just put
There
a
you
little
go.
plug in.
All right, well, thank you for the update.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Since Rich is here, and you were giving information about the fiber optic,
Yes.
do you have to live in Lyme to be able to hook up, or could somebody, like, I was at a meeting on Monday, and the cable areas in Hanover is gonna expand, but not enough, like Dairy Lane, so just over the town line, there are a bunch of people who are not gonna get high-speed internet in their lifetime. But I didn't know if that was, you know, possible for the fiber optic, if they obviously paid for it to go into their community and hook up. It might be cheaper for them than running cable from that, and whether or not your business plan and thinking would allow for people like on Dairy Lane to get,
Where's Dairy Lane?
if you go up Baker Hill Road, you know, and you just cross into Hanover where it turns
Oh,
to
okay.
pavement, there's a road on the right called Dairy Lane, and there are probably 8 houses in there, maybe 6, 7,
So-
8.
We haven't had that specific discussion. The plan is to hit everybody that's on 53 miles of road in
Right.
Lyme
Yep,
first.
yes.
There's an argument to be made for extending it. I mean, it'll be an economically viable thing.
Yes.
People paying money in, the investors will be paid off.
Right.
And at that point, Lyme Fiber could decide, to take over the state, but,
Yep.
uh,
Well, it seemed
Yeah.
like, they spoke at a public hearing in front of the select board in Hanover, as Hanover was about to enter into this franchise agreement with Comcast, which is not, it's gonna serve an area that's not served now, but not these people. And, they just felt bad, and I didn't know if that was an option for them to, hopefully hook onto the fiber optic. But that's up to you all to figure out, and then if so, I think you'd find some receptivity
Yep.
from those people here.
I would encourage them to go to the limefiber.net
Mhm.
site,
Mhm.
info@limefiber.net, ask us. We'll chew on it, and it clearly won't be first priority, but
No, they shouldn't be.
that might be something to consider.
Yep.
All right. Are we done here? Oh,
When I drove up Brecka Road the other night for the first time in a while, and I noticed that, in the middle there somewhere where the power lines are, there's been a huge clear cut in the power lines all the way through line. So, I guess my understanding is that they should have,
because it's a scenic road,
could have seen it better.
they should have come to us.
To us.
Did you never?
I have not heard anything from anybody, and I've been trying to get out, I've just been swamped this week to.
So yeah, I guess my question is, can they be fined? I mean, it's,
They're responsible for damages, is what, the way the,
I mean, what if there's neighbors that, needed to have a lot of input on that?
Well, I guess the first thing to find out is what happened. So,
Yeah,
It's Hanover,
it's-
I mean,
it's-
New Hampshire Co-op is the power company.
Isn't there, I mean, there's a minimum diameter tree, right?
yeah,
8-inch.
yeah,
8-inch, yeah, they can't cut,
When I see it, they can't cut something.
without
right.
without
Yeah.
certain input and, or a declaration of emergency.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little space, I'm not sure how far back it is from the road, I think there's a stone wall there, and I think they cut on the other side of the stone wall.
if they cut on the other side of the stone wall, then I think they're making the assumption that those lines are not in the roadway.
Yeah,
I think that's-
maybe, but they still needed to.
Not if they are on private property.
Yeah, well, maybe you should take a look, I don't know, I just didn't stop.
Yeah, if they're on the other side of the stone wall, typically the scenic road, and that's one of the reasons you have a scenic road, is you have beautiful stone walls going down the road.
Well, I'm not even sure there is a stone, I mean, I
Alright,
went quickly,
so we should get some clarity on what happened and what exactly happened.
yeah, maybe it isn't. That was right. So if they have to cut within a certain distance of the road to necessitate coming to us?
They have to cut within the road right of way.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And typically, we don't have a known right of way for any of the roads, so.
Well, like the river road, the town has a viatic right of way. I own to the center.
Right.
We own to the center of the road, and the town just has a right of way across it. They own it too.
Right, and I think that's pretty much the same for almost every
Yeah.
road in line.
Well, maybe that's
No.
the case.
Not Route 10 South.
Well, not Route 10, but.
And not Cannon Ledge.
Not, we're investigating that. It's a battle to investigate because the oldest roads in town, that was not the way roads were laid out in the history of roads. And so, like for instance, the River Road, it should be deed, I mean, if you read the abutting landowner's deeds, it won't say to the middle of the road, it say to the edge of the road. So the actual right-of-way of the River Road was considered a reservation to all the deeds in the 1800s. It was all the land except for that reserved for the road. And the reservation of the road belonged to the town.
Well,
So,
the town paid off some of the people. I mean, I've seen some of the original road layouts. Town compensates landowner for the land that they use.
well, we have to compensate for right-of-ways too, though, so we just did that. So it's not necessarily
Well,
the
Frida
deed
was told.
fee title to it. We wanted fee title in the last episode, and it was, we didn't get that, we got an easement instead.
Well, Frida was told me that, I don't know whether she did, she was the one that said, oh, you know, viatic right of way.
Well, that's, when there's no record and no proof, that's the simple way under dispute that the courts have settled issues.
Yeah,
But that's not necessarily, if that's specific to that particular case, it's not, it can't be brought. If there's evidence, and someone can dig it up and find the evidence, then you're gonna find that the town, so, yeah,
it's
it
complicated.
is complicated. Yeah, it's kind of a shame when people think they own to the center of the road, and they really don't, they own to whatever their deed says they own.
So the other question I had was, there's this, we were talking about that driveway on Cutting Lane, that they never got a permit. So, I guess I'm gonna ask you, get your thoughts. How does the selectmen feel about fining? I mean, would the town ever
Don't they need a
fine
zoning
them?
permit to get a driveway?
Yeah, they moved to they'd done some work on, they actually moved the house.
Mm-hmm.
Never once said anything about moving the driveway.
Mhm.
The driveway got moved, I'm assuming he's causing some problems, and so now, I'm
That's a
going
zoning violation, because they didn't get a zoning
So the
permit.
house, the
It's
first house?
$250 a day. I mean, the town needs all the money they can get, so, but obviously it's a tough issue, when you start guess my question
They've
is
been put
how
on,
does-
they've been put on notice. that they-
Yeah, they, and
Now,
she has,
so can we go back to when they built that, now how long ago they started the house? We didn't notify them back then, so it's gonna be
Right,
hard
it's a- right.
to say we have to pay a penalty way back then. It's-
Right, they
We didn't
might-
catch it any more than they claim they didn't know.
Well, ignorance.
Yeah, I know, it's an interesting
well, I
question.
pointed out to her that nowhere in any of the documentation she gave me did it say anything about moving the driveway. And so, there was no, even that the orientation of the house didn't show a garage where they were going to be putting cars. So, unless you tell me you're going to be doing it, I'm not going to make assumptions that you're. Right.
Well, my 2 cents, and we've discussed this before, is that from my point of view, the priority is compliance, and not necessarily going back to the date of violation. See, it's an option, but just to get it in compliance, and if it's necessary, to use the motivation of a fine.
That's always the way it has been,
Yeah.
and, the way the ordinance is written, it says you, need to go and try to get it resolved,
Right.
without, a cease and desist order,
Right.
the first thing you should do
It's
is
just
just
try to work
basically
it out.
work it out with them. And then, if you get no response or a negative response, then go to more drastic.
That
So
makes
you
sense.
haven't been up there.
I just gave Tim I just got the application yesterday, I just gave Tim his copy, and
So Steve and I
So
Steve
there's
has
now
that.
an application, I didn't understand, there's now an application for the driveway permit?
yes, the curb cutting and the driveway, 2 applications.
Okay.
So can he require whatever he needs to make it up?
Yes, he can.
For the town roads or culvert
Oh,
or different
absolutely.
grading?
Yeah,
And
so
I-
you got it.
That's what we're asking, was like, we have a problem with damage being done to the town road, and we're like, well, wait a minute.
I think if they put in a corrugated culvert that will slow the flow of water coming down that hill when it goes under the driveway, that may help.
What's your, well, maybe we should ask after you're up there, but it'd be an interesting question. What do we think the board would have required had it come to us? And then,
Well, I mean, even, just if I had known that they were gonna be moving the driveway, then they would need a new curb cut permit, which covers the first 30 feet of the driveway, which the board has voted Tim is the representative to. And Steve Williams is the road agent. They go out, they check the site distances, they look at the angle of
so
that's
if
coming
we
into the road.
can rely on Tim.
Yeah, I've been doing it.
Yeah. I've always felt I could rely on.
That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
We're gonna get the driveway built the way it should be built, number one. And then we're gonna deal with the ditching.
Maybe they can give us a drainage easement so it doesn't all have to go down the road and bring up the property. Hey,
Well,
that's sometimes what you do when you get proper
Yeah.
permitting,
But we can't require that, that's the problem.
Why couldn't we
Where's the water
require?
gonna go?
Why couldn't?
I mean, it probably used to go onto their property because it wasn't a problem until they changed the drainage for their new driveway. I mean, just saying.
Steve?
We don't, yeah.
Well, it wasn't a problem before, right?
No, I don't know.
So the water went somewhere.
Yeah.
Steve's gotta look at the road, if there's, he's gonna say they have to do whatever they need to do, so the road isn't damaged.
Right.
Well, it wasn't a problem
It's-
before
I
the
wish-
water's above their
Well,
driveway
the
was
interesting thing
changed.
is, so, in the history of what was, there was a storage bin or some sort of, it's a trailer bin that's there. And the
Container.
records, it's a container, and the records are that there's water coming out of the container that's causing this damage. It's like, I got up there, I'm looking at it, what are you talking about?
Who's right?
Well, so there's a possibility that there's an old well under this container, I don't know, if there's really that. But the pictures and stuff that was analyzed several years ago, I guess, 2 or 3 years, 4 years before I was on the board, was pictures of essentially water coming off of the trailers sitting in such a way that it's draining, it's a roof, and the roof is
Pouring
draining.
down.
Instead of the rain coming down on the ground, it's actually a roof, and then that roof water is coming out onto the road.
That's
because it's
one of the
following.
smaller containers, I can't see that
Well, right, this
shedding
is,
that much.
when I got up there, I had a hard time understanding how this water was coming out of the old driveway. Like, the old driveway's up water's coming down the road, so how is it? I don't
Yeah,
know why.
I looked at that and, you know, when I was up there, and all I can see is water coming down along the ditch, because there is a
Where is this?
Cutting Hill Lane.
You know,
Yeah, there was a little kicker, they moved it.
So they made, what, Mary, what was her name? Oh, it's,
And she was there by herself, and
Malata.
she married the
Malata.
physician.
oh, was it Malata Harlow House?
Yeah.
Malata's
Harlow.
house.
Oh,
Yeah,
that was
it's
her
right on the
house.
corner,
Yeah,
yeah.
she married that physician, and then they started, you know.
Oh, you mean
moving the house.
Sparks?
Yeah,
Michael Sparks?
yes.
That one, right there at that corner.
Yes.
And they
Oh, okay.
moved the house, they moved the cable, built a huge addition on it.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they
I
changed
see,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's managing the ditch work, there is a culvert, or there's a cutout at the top of their property, which
Mhm.
takes the water and puts it off the roadway and into, on the lower land, it
Mhm.
just drops down there.
That's good.
But from that point,
Uh-huh.
the rest of the way down, there's a berm essentially there that's keeping water on the road and in the ditch.
Uh-huh.
And it's a long ditch, so it builds momentum and it's
Mhm.
carrying the road debris
Mhm.
and it's silting out at the pinnacle. I mean, it's, that's what
Right.
makes the bend pinnacle, it
Right.
silts it right up.
Huh.
And she was claiming it was burying her wall. Steve wants to cut a ditch in there. They actually, I guess Freddie did ditch that at one point and put stones in there, which I think someone said she didn't like. So she made them take those stones out, which I don't know why they did that. Because, I mean, the town right of way is the town right of way.
Yeah, you
What
have
we
a right
gotta
to
do.
maintain the road.
Exactly,
Yeah, it's a
you know,
town
so,
road.
I wanna get along with the neighbors,
Yeah.
but still, you gotta be able to have your road, that's the number one priority.
I think if they put a culvert in that can slow the water down, you're not a smooth
Still, even
culvert.
at that
No, they
driveway,
need to-
from the new driveway, the rest of the way down,
They
that
need to-
water's gonna gain some.
Oh, it is, but
They
you're gonna-
need to have less volume, and they need to divert some of it to
Well,
something
then
else.
she wants now to divert it to the other side of the road, which would then dump it onto her neighbor's property instead of her property.
Right.
I'm like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah, they can do
Like,
it.
I'm like, wait.
Well, hopefully
So
Steve-
this is an interesting, and she's coming in to talk to the, and Steve's they're gonna try and work out a plan now, and, but we needed the driveway.
But you
needs a
guys are
culvert.
gonna go out
Right.
and do your thing.
So, but you're limited to the driveway, not the roadway. Steve is in the roadway and the rest of the road and the ditching and all of that.
Well, the
so-
question I have is where did it go before when it wasn't a problem? Because, and how has it changed? Because if it wasn't a problem before, you wanna try to get it back
So
to
the
that
problem,
condition.
the problem began when they moved the driveway?
I think what happened was that, you know, I was looking at the aerial photography prior to the move, so I could see where, you know, I want to verify that the driveway was moved. And what makes sense to me is happening is that where the old driveway was, the water was coming down, hitting the culvert, slowing down at the culvert. And then by the time it came out of that culvert, it didn't gain enough speed again once it hit.
And they plug that culvert.
It may have plugged. I think, you know, culverts, you know, if it's a corrugated culvert, it's going to slow the water down. And since that driveway was lower on the road, wasn't a problem, they took that culvert out, moved the driveway up, did not put a new culvert in. And so now the water just shoots down that whole ditch and gains speed the entire time.
So in terms of the planning board, it's really, Tim is gonna handle that.
Tim's gonna handle that.
And the select board's gonna handle the
rest
road.
of it, yeah.
Okay.
It's usually if they ditched it and put in, you know, large, you know, 7-inch minus stone, you would get enough resistance in there to slow the water down, so it wouldn't pull all that out. But that's, you know, if
They have to pay for the culvert.
they have to pay for the culvert, and I did, in my discussions with her yesterday, I did say that, first of all, I said it was not a guarantee that it was going to get approved, and I also said, if culvert is required, it is her responsibility to pay for it.
The new driveway,
Well,
this
there's
is the
been
old
enough things
driveway.
on listserv, Steve said, happen to everybody here.
Now, whether they-
Saying, you know, explain to people that they're responsible for the culverts.
Yeah.
I don't know what they did
But
to
if she
shape
says-
the land when they moved the house. One of the pictures shows, obviously, the new
No, if you look at the aerial photography and just measure from the same point across the road, and, you know, there's all these, they moved it 145 feet or something like that. And the measurement came out, it was very clear that it was moved.
Right, because they moved the house quite a ways up.
Yeah.
And her comment is, well, of course we moved the driveway, you know, we're gonna park way down here when the house is way up here.
Right.
I didn't put the driveway on the plan. Anyhow, there's a miscommunication at the time of the house moving, I guess.
And again, John, it's one thing, it's my fault, you know,
Well, that's what I assume all the time.
and everything's my fault.
So Russ, this is a general question. Does the select board ever do any fines? I mean, because I know you have one, but,
I haven't done it.
I mean.
Don't you find people who ask about fines?
Yeah,
I think so.
That's where you're volunteering to.
Yeah.
The first
No, I
time.
was just curious because, you know, if
Not mine.
if we never fine anybody,
I don't
I mean,
think,
I'm not trying to say we should fine them. I'm just saying, if nobody ever gets fined, then there's no incentive for people to do any of this stuff.
well,
You know, that's
I
why they don't
know,
get
I mean,
building
for
permits,
every
why
time
they-
I've had to do, you know, some sort of enforcement, the asking to have it done, and letting them know that they are in violation,
I think this all.
Usually does the.
usually does the trick.
And it's this thing.
So there's, and again, the way it's,
wall is a
I'm just wondering about all the
I mean,
things
that's
that they
all,
were here
that's,
about.
This could be holding on,
But,
I guess.
you know, the,
no, but I mean, that's.
even the way the
that's
laws are
raised
written,
land,
you need
like
to
ours.
try to get conformance first.
Right.
You can't just go and say, okay, you're in violation, here's a fine.
Yeah.
You need to try to get conformance, and if you can't get conformance,
Then you
then,
can, okay.
then you can fine. So
That's
it's
my
not,
question.
it's not something that,
I'm just trying to get money for the town.
I understand that. you know, I'll come out and inspect your house, and we, you know, if I can find something,
Yeah,
well,
We'll be out tomorrow.
There's a donation box right in
Yeah.
no, I was just curious how it's.
Just like relentless speed
I
traps.
don't recall.
This is-
Everybody about
Oh, it doesn't?
What are you doing?
Well,
you need to add more parking. Parking is, you can generate revenue, parking is what it is. Then you can, the town can get the money.
Yeah, I can't remember how much they made.
I know ours is.
You can barely get
Crazy out here.
My wife cost me quite a bit.
I think by having an established process.
Right, but I'm saying,
There was some town, I can't
All
remember where
right.
it was, like, on the corner of the town was on the interstate highway. And so they just set their police up there, and they just, most of the town revenue came from speed.
like Norwich.
Yeah,
Woodstock.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is the time in which I have to express my awe at the profound level of confabulation and dastardliness of everybody on the board. So thank you very much for your work tonight, and consider yourselves free to go.